Prologue. The god that fell they called themselves the Korthun, an empire of scaled colossi who claimed descent from gods that strode the stars before suns were born. To them, conquest was worship. Every invasion was not just war, but liturgy. When they descended upon Arendor Station, a thriving human colony that served as the crossroads of half a dozen trade routes, they came not as diplomats, but as executioners. Their high warlord broadcast the first transmission across every channel. You kneel or you burn. Your people are not fit to stand in the presence of the divine. The bombardment began before the words finished echoing. Cities folded into glass. Orbiting freighters were torn apart for sport. Survivors were herded into pens, forced to watch as their homes cracked and boiled. The Korthun laughed, certain that Earth's children would remember this lesson. The gods had returned, and humanity was dust beneath their talons. But they did not understand what kind of people they had provoked. The arrogance of the victors, for weeks. The Korthun paraded through the ruins. They draped themselves in banners stitched from human flags. They set bonfires in the shattered husks of libraries. One commander, an immense titan plated in obsidian armor, wore the bones of a slain Arendorian governor as jewelry, mocking human fragility. Their broadcasts to the wider galaxy were filled with laughter and scorn. Earth breeds cattle that call themselves colonists. We slaughtered them in hours. If humanity resists, we will strip their blue world to bedrock and scatter the dust. The galaxy believed them. Other species whispered that the humans had grown soft, too civilized, too fragile to challenge beings who still thought of themselves as gods. But in the silence of Earth's deep councils, something was stirring. The woman in ashes among the survivors on Arendor was Captain Celine Cade, a Marine officer stranded when her carrier was annihilated. She watched her soldiers executed one by one in the squares of burning cities. She buried her own daughter beneath a sky blackened by alien fire. Celine did not break. When she was finally dragged before the Korthun warlord, she saw the ribcage of a fallen alien god, a colossal fossil unearthed and worshipped by their priests. Its bones, carved into holy relics, were paraded like thunderbolts of divinity. That night, Celine escaped her cage. With bloodied hands and scavenged blades, she carved her way through her captors. She pried the bones from the fossil and forged them into armor. At dawn, she appeared before the prisoners of Arendor, clad in the skeletal remains of the Korthun's so-called god. The symbol was unmistakable. She was mocking their entire pantheon. The survivors whispered her name like prayer. The Korthun saw her and faltered. For the first time, doubt flickered in their eyes. Silence. Before the storm back on Earth, the Terran High Command received Celine's transmission. Her figure, gaunt, armored in alien bones, standing before burning ruins, flooded every council chamber. There was no debate. No hesitation. For centuries, humanity had restrained itself. Diplomacy, compromise, restraint, these had been Earth's weapons. But now, humanity would unleash the arsenal it had always kept buried in silence. The order spread across encrypted channels. Mobilize everything. No survivors. Shipyards lit up like suns. Titans of steel. Dreadnoughts whose keels had never known war slid into void. Armies stirred in their barracks, faces grim, eyes hard. Every screen filled with one symbol, the bone-clad silhouette of Celine Cade. The galaxy listened, and for the first time in millennia, it grew cold with fear. The shattering of suns. The retaliation began without a word. In the Korthun stronghold system, their fleets lounged fat and unprepared. They believed humanity would bargain, plead, perhaps offer tribute. Instead, the stars themselves dimmed. Human dreadnoughts translated in by the thousands, blotting out constellations. Korthun commanders barked orders, but their fleets had never faced fire like this. Terran rail cannons cracked moons. Carriers unleashed swarms of drones that carved through alien hulls like locusts. Entire battle lines evaporated in storms of light. When the Korthun tried to rally, their comms filled with a single broadcast. This is humanity's answer. You called yourselves gods. Now kneel, or be erased. Every word was punctuated by annihilation. The fall of the warlord on Arendor itself, Selene led the charge. Human strike teams descended like meteors, reclaiming the colony piece by piece. Wherever she went in her bone-forged armor, alien morale collapsed. At the gates of the warlord's palace, she faced him directly, the giant who had mocked humanity with bones around his neck. The duel was brutal, primal. Metal clashed against claw, bone against blade. In the end, Selene drove the jagged rib of the alien fossil through the warlord's chest, pinning him to the scorched earth. The prisoners erupted in defiant roars. The galaxy watched in silence. A human had slain a self-proclaimed god, while wearing the bones of its ancestor. Retribution. Across the stars, human vengeance did not stop at Arendor. It spread like wildfire. Every Korthun world burned. Their temples collapsed under the weight of orbital strikes. Their fleets fractured and fled, only to be hunted down like prey. Entire planets were silenced in hours. Human soldiers landed in storms of fire, methodical, unstoppable, leaving behind only ash and monuments to the fallen. Alien civilizations who once mocked humanity now bowed their heads, terrified that even a whisper of disrespect might bring the same fate the galaxy had never seen. Retaliation delivered with such cold precision. Aftermath. The whispered fear when the fires dimmed, and the last screams of the Korthun died into vacuum. The galaxy stood in silence. The broadcasts ended. The fleets returned. Earth spoke no words of triumph, only silence, colder than death. Selene Cade returned to Arendor, still clad in the bones of an alien god. Survivors wept as she raised the new human banner, stitched not from cloth but from steel and ash. And across the stars, whispers spread like contagion. Never provoke Earth again. Because the galaxy had learned the truth. Humanity's patience was vast, but their vengeance was infinite. They had thought Earth was weak. They had thought humanity fragile. Now they understood. She wore the bones of an alien god, and in doing so she earned not just respect,